Hello there,
Hello.
it is Beck and Deb, and welcome very much to our YouTube show this week.
Yeah, welcome.
It's really great to have you here with us. But as always, we want to just let you know what's coming up so you don't miss out. We'd hate for you to miss out. Just this morning, I've been starting to put the details on our website for our upcoming book club, which we are starting in July. Very excited about that. We're going to be looking over the course of 8 weeks at the Dare to Be You book. Thriving is the aim of the game. So we would absolutely love to have you with us for those 8 weeks. We'll be doing every week through that 8 weeks. We'll be getting together for an hour and talking about the kind of themes that come out in that book, as well as having a pop-up Facebook group so you can kind of connect with each other. And obviously all the sessions will be recorded. So whatever happens, you get to keep those forever too. And if you want to know more about that, you can visit our website, daretobeyou.co.uk, and find out about that. That's starting in July.
Brilliant. And also this week, we are in the middle of our self-love challenge in our Facebook group, the free 5 days that we do every so often, because we just love to do that. And to follow up from that, we are doing a 30-day self-love challenge, that's a paid program to dive a little bit deeper into the things that we play around with in the free 5 days. So if you're interested in that, there's details of that on the website. Is this true?
Yes, there will be details of that on the website. That's very true, Deb.
Beck's been playing with the website and I've been doing the job, so I hope you know. Yeah. So yeah, we would absolutely, if you've joined in or if you haven't joined in, we would absolutely love you to join us for that 30 days, because diving deeply like that is always a whole lot of fun. And it was definitely, for me, I actually did it was the Warrior's Journey, the first one that we did, and Beck took part, and they're just such fun, and they are transformational when you just stay around like that for 30 days. So if you want to know more about that, you can go to our website, daretobeyou.co.uk, or you can get in touch with us. We're always available to speak to.
We absolutely are, yes. So on with the show. So first off, as always, living, learning and loving. So what have we been living and learning over the last week?
Oh, I don't know whether I've been alive this week.
It's been a humdinger of a week, hasn't it? Well, one of the things that has kind of come up for me over the last week, towards the middle of last week, in fact, probably just after we'd recorded our show last week, my nan, Deb's mum, had a little accident at home. She fell. She has a conservatory on the back of the house, and as she came into the conservatory, missed her step and went flying, I think, didn't she?
She proper bumped herself, didn't she? She hurt her leg quite badly and bumped her head quite nastily.
Yeah. So it was quite, and obviously, you know, as a family, we all very quickly kind of got in touch with each other to keep up to date with what was happening. She ended up in hospital for a few hours, and so in the mix of all that, and over the following few days, there was a lot of stuff kind of going on with our family.
Yeah, there was.
People connecting and sharing, and my cousin who lives there and my uncle who lives nearby, they were kind of involved with, you know, the day-to-day, cooking her food and helping
When
out.
things like that happen, you really see the strange times that we're living in, really kind of, you really see it, because under normal circumstances, we would have just gone to visit her, gone to see her. But with everything that's going on, and she and my dad have been in lockdown because they're in
they've been in a 3-month isolation.
Yeah,
so they're in that vulnerable category.
So it was like, oh, what do we do?
Yeah, and I think definitely that was for me one of the things that was going on throughout that was kind of that. Over the last, you know, however many months it's been now that we've been in this kind of lockdown situation where lots of ordinary things have changed a little bit.
Where we have to react differently in situations like that. Yeah,
it kind of brought up some stuff, didn't it? Where it was like, you know, if we didn't have lockdown, what would we do? Because we do have lockdown, are we going to do that, or aren't we going to do that?
What can we do?
And just like my cousin who was visiting at the time, they were kind of social distancing in the garden, you know, having a picnic and stuff. She obviously immediately reacted when my nan fell and kind of went to her side, rang an ambulance, was trying to keep her conscious and stuff. And there's a part of you that's like, because of what's going on, in that moment, it didn't even occur to my cousin not to get close to my nan. It's like social distancing is out the window in that scenario, because something more important has kind of come along in that way. You know, my nan's life was at a different kind of risk because of what just happened.
As human beings, though, I think we're really good in the moment at assessing what I mean, one of the things that really came out of it for me, I think my learning was how much we can trust our judgment in any given moment in those circumstances.
Definitely.
And it is like, there's a greater risk to stay social distancing. There's a greater
I'll
risk.
Just stay over here now while you go in and out of consciousness. You know, we can see that in a given moment. We know how to turn up and what to do. But if you'd kind of put that scenario out to someone, okay, it's the middle of lockdown, we're not supposed to be close to people, this person falls over, there's this potential danger, what do you do? We probably all would have different ideas about what we may or may not do.
I think it's brilliant that we can know and trust ourselves in those moments. And what I've seen for myself since I've been around this understanding is that I make way better judgments, and I am happy to trust my own judgment.
Yeah.
Because I trust that
and
you know, all sorts of different, so we were all presented with different things day in and day out like this. And what I really love about knowing how life works and understanding myself a little bit more is I don't have to be fearful about those things because I know that I can trust my own judgment in those moments. And I see from a step back where we are, it's really easy to get caught up in that noisy thinking in our head that starts to talk us out of our good judgment or do those sorts of things.
Yeah, because kind of after that happened, over the next couple of days, our family were all kind of in, you know, good old-fashioned WhatsApp group. We're all kind of back and forth.
Old-fashioned, isn't that
modern? I don't know, they're fairly outdated now, aren't they?
Oh gosh, am I that far behind the time?
But we were kind of having a lot of conversations back and forward about what the next thing to do was, you know, how we could help, whether we could help because we're, you know, 200 odd miles away, whether we should be kind of going up and helping, whether it was better and safer for it to be the people that were there, that were already involved and had already at that point kind of crossed the social distancing rules, you know. And there was quite a lot of conversation and a lot of uncertainty amongst the family as to what was best. And I noticed for me what was going on in all of that was how many times I went into the story and then came back into what was okay and what I knew to be true.
Yes, yeah. And I think that is what is really amazing about this understanding, seeing we do as human beings get caught in our stories. I don't think it's realistic to expect never to be pulled in by a story. And it is interesting seeing which ones hook us in and which ones pull us in and which ones don't. But it is easy to be pulled into the drama of that.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's really good to notice your own drama. I think these things
absolutely
give us amazing invitations to look at where, you know, what is actually going on and what of this is the drama that we are creating around it. And just to see, as I just see again and again and again how amazing we are as human beings in all sorts of situations. During this week in our 5-day challenge, as usual, we've had some amazing comments and some fantastic people joining in, and things that they've shared, things that they see of beauty and things that they see in themselves. It just never ceases to amaze me how, you know, the world that we live in, how it's set up, how good it is, and how we just continue to get these invitations to look at our own stuff and what our own mind does and get to know ourselves better and better over these kinds of things.
Yeah, definitely. Because I noticed that kind of one of the other things that was happening was how each person in the family had a different opinion on what was the right thing to do. And it was really interesting because, again, you can get drawn into that. Well, they're not right and I am, and you should do this, but they shouldn't do that. And what's then interesting to me is how quickly I come back to nobody's right or wrong here. Everybody just has their own kind of story going on as to what makes sense to them. Like we always point to, with the thinking we have, we're going to do what makes sense to us. You know, and whatever anybody's opinions were in that kind of conversation, each person was just sharing that opinion from what made most sense to them. You know, either what they would want to happen if they'd been in my nan's position, or what they think makes most sense with how they feel in that moment.
It's much easier to be compassionate with people when we understand that as well, isn't it? Especially if someone has got a very different opinion to you. Because very often in those situations, if someone else sees something very, very differently, it's very easy to defend your own position. And I can see with myself, what I used to do a lot was go into defense mode then, and I wouldn't even bother to look at whether, you know, whether there was a possibility it was wrong, or, you know, there was something else to see here, and perhaps this other person had a point. Because I think when somebody says something, especially if we feel a little bit attacked, it's really easy to go straight into defense mode and not actually hear what that person is saying, and not even question what you're saying. You just straight away jump to defense mode.
What I'm saying,
I'm right, this is how it should be. And what I find fascinating is actually, if I take a breath and get past that sting what that the person's saying, and kind of ask the question, are they right, or have they maybe got a point, or is at least some of what they are saying right? And then look back again at what my viewpoint is, and get curious and interesting to see if there is something different to see there. And that it just, you have such a different experience yourself. And to me, it opens our mind when we do that. And it's amazing. Again, you know, if we go back to the world that we live in, the possibilities that are out there. And what I have noticed that I used to do a lot was just box myself into, no, this is it, and I'm right. And in these kinds of ways, if we are prepared to be open, and it can even be after the event. It's
I think that's really precious that we get to have that kind of hindsight, because for me it's like, hindsight's an amazing thing. People kind of say, oh, hindsight's practically useless because you know, but actually it's a really useful thing in my mind, because exactly like the conversation we're having now, you can immediately start to see different places that every one of us in that conversation could have said or done something differently. And, you know, that kind of, for me, then means that next time something comes up, and it might not be, you know, and it's unlikely to be the exact same scenario,
but it does open your mind, doesn't it?
But the next time something comes round that kind of pushes those buttons in you, or raises those kinds of issues potentially, it gets, something new comes through because you've been brave enough to look at it this time round. You know, even if it was after the fact, it's like, actually, next time this comes up, what can come through me will come at a different time in that kind of process. It might not wait until after.
It definitely does. And it is, if we've had the courage to look after us. And I, you know, with lockdown, and even when none of this has happened, we all have families for various different reasons. We have people that we feel that we're taking care of, and it can be really difficult when there's a group of people with different opinions on, you know, the amount of people that have elderly parents. You know, how do we deal with that? What do we do? Your parents have an opinion, you have an opinion, what you think your parents should think, and your siblings, and, you know, what have it. It's really, it's so helpful, I think, to be in this conversation and be just a little bit more mindful of other people having a different opinion, and just have that, even if it's just a second, to kind of see it differently. And to see that we're doing the best we can with the thinking that we believe to be true. And I would often look at other people and think, well, but I'm still right. And it's really interesting to kind of come back to that again, and just question my own thinking, question the things that I believe to be true in that moment. Because it's really clever how we get brought into our own stuff, and really believe that our own stuff is absolute truth, and it never ceases to amaze me. We're like, oh, there I go again,
buying into my own story, causing my own suffering.
Because that's what we do, isn't it? When we disagree, and when we have very strong opinions of what should be, and believe that we are right, and defend that, it looks like our pain comes from the circumstances. It looks like it comes from what's going on, but what it's coming from is our own mind in those moments when we just absolutely believe that our own thinking is right, and we're not prepared to look at it and question. And somehow I've noticed again and again, when we take this softer, more gentle approach, and we are prepared to listen, both to ourselves, interestingly, because I think listening starts with ourselves.
Yeah.
And when I used to defend myself, I felt that it was about the other person, but what I've started to notice is how much that is about me not listening to me. And starting from that place, when we have this slightly softer approach, it's life-changing. I think it gives us a whole different experience and something completely different, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I just, before we kind of move on to our question, I just wanted to touch on the other little thing, it's not really little, but that we're also kind of living and learning this week, and Deb's already touched on it a little bit, is the self-love. We're doing the 5 days self-love free challenge this week, and I know for me, and I'm fairly certain for Deb, that kind of coming back and looking at that again, the kind of self-love and what that really means for me, and knowing myself and what it means to love myself is really, really, there's just something really special in that for me. I just find that really precious to come back round to that kind of again and again, but each time it kind of feels fresh. I don't know if that's the same for you, but definitely for me,
it's a little bit like this understanding that we share, that Sydney Banks talked about, the principles. I think coming back to the simplicity of that, it's very easy when we've been around these things for a long time to stop. Again, we can do that whole stop seeing it, can't we? We think we know and we stop seeing. And I feel the same about these self-love challenges that we do. I think we just stop seeing stuff when it becomes so familiar. It's almost what is hidden in plain view. We just stop seeing it. But our question today is about that, so we're
I was going to say, I didn't want to talk too much,
so we will definitely dive a little bit deeper into that. But it is just the simplicity of that is just beautiful. And coming back again, I love the little challenges and the playing around and being reminded again and again and again of how simple it is.
Yeah, me too.
So loving
this week. Who are you loving this week, Deb?
I've got to say that I'm loving our family this week. I think I was kind of torn between the people in our self-love group.
Well, I'm going to do them, so you do.
Okay, so that's cool. And
because I was torn between the two as well.
So shall we share both?
All right then.
So definitely, I think our family are absolutely amazing. The Facebook group, the WhatsApp group. It's just lovely to see how caring everybody is for each other and how considerate of each other. And I just think we've got an amazing family.
Yeah,
I feel very blessed and very lucky.
With my nan last week, it was amazing.
And thankfully she is okay.
Oh yes,
on the mend, and
she is okay. She's home and she's mending. Yeah, but yes, I second that. And I think I was torn between whether to kind of say my nan and our family, or all of the wonderful, amazing people that are joining in with our 5 days. So since you started with the family, a big shout out to everybody that is taking part. And even if you're one of the people that maybe hasn't commented yet, even so, if you're kind of watching the videos and just following what's happening, big shout out to all of you, because we love these 5 days and we know a lot of people get a lot from them. And it just makes our lives a lot more fun, and we hope for you too. So thank you for taking part so enthusiastically. We're loving watching what's happening in the Facebook group.
We are. It's beautiful. We love reading all your comments. We love finding out a little bit more about you. We love knowing some great things about you. It's lovely.
And if you happen to be watching this somewhere and you're not in our Facebook group and want to know what it is we're talking about, you're very, very welcome to come and kind of get into the group. It's Dare to Be You with a purple heart. And just see what's happening.
It will probably almost certainly be underneath this video how you can find the Facebook group. But please reach out to us if you're stuck at all.
Yeah, because it's amazing what's happening in there this week, and we do these fairly regularly. So
we do. So even if you're watching this at a totally different time and that's all finished and all done, there will be another one, and we're always up to something in the group. We're always sharing all sorts of things anyway. So come along and join us. It'd be absolutely wonderful to have you with us.
It would. So our question this week on topic is why is self-love so important? And I mean, it's a great question, especially because we're talking about that and looking at that this week. But it's something for me that has always underpinned, like, we talk about relationships and we kind of come at this conversation mostly from a relationship angle, because that was where we both particularly had our kind of troubles, our suffering, if you like. And it kind of, for me, the more that I have explored what self-love is and how I can love myself, how and why I would, the more that has had an impact on my relationships. Obviously with myself first, but every other relationship I have in life has been impacted because I understand why it is that I can love myself, why it is that that's, you know, it's kind of built in that I am lovable. And it is very much about, for me, when we talk about relationships and this understanding, it's about seeing that that starts with the self, that starts with knowing who I am, loving who I am, and then that kind of overflows and becomes, you know, I'm able to love other people and connect with other people and build relationships with other people. So that, I think, is my kind of first, my starter. And kind of self-love to me underpins healthy relationships.
Yeah, totally. I'm going to say something maybe a little bit controversial. I don't know.
I didn't agree this beforehand.
I know often this is one of those topics, isn't it? And we do the 5 days of self-love, and for 30 days we're going to be doing. And what I see for myself, and I know in a lot of spiritual circles, and I know I've seen posts on Facebook that say self-help is, you know, we shouldn't do self-help stuff, and how can we love a self when what we find is there is no self. And I think that's true. I think they're right. I think what we ultimately find is when we know the truth of who we are, we find something much deeper out about ourselves. But what I also see in this is my everyday life, you know, those moments, we're sat here doing this, I feel like I'm sat next to Beck, who isn't me. I'm looking out my window at, you know, our garden, and I feel like I have a human experience. Yeah. I absolutely, my own experience is this human experience. And to me, the self-love is an investigation of what is our human experience. What does that mean? How is that created? How do we have that? What does that mean for our human experience? And what does it, you know, what does this deeper self mean? And it can all sound really, I don't know, can be very difficult to see at first, which is why we play in this arena, and why, for me, self-love, you could put in there knowing ourselves. We could, one of the deepest spiritual teachings is know thyself. And to me, when we know who we truly are, we are love. So how can we not be in love with ourselves? So the whole thing, it works for me. And when we do explore our spiritual nature and our human nature, one of the things I've noticed is the way that we can explore that, certainly together, is through words and conversation. And definitely we have moments of deep silence and connection, because there is something here beyond the words. But you know, words is definitely one of the ways. You know, we can't really do a YouTube show with a couple of hours, and well, we could
do that one time.
We could.
Sit in silence.
But it feels like this is our best attempt at sharing through words. And to me, it makes sense to know myself, to love myself, and to investigate in that way. And it's certainly changed my life in ways. I feel like I am having the best human experience that is available to me, because I know myself much, much more. I'm sure there's plenty to find out yet. I know myself much more than I ever did.
And I think definitely it's that whole, as we start to see how life really works, and I think there's so much that's kind of taught to us, or we kind of pick up from, you know, people around us as we're growing up and that sort of thing, that suggests that life works differently to how it really does.
Absolutely.
And it can get very confusing. And for me, this conversation is about orientating back to truth, back to how it actually works. You know, in the same way that if you were driving a car and you got your clutch and your your
gas
accelerator. I was going to say gas, and that's American.
It is a bit.
Your clutch and your accelerator. If you've got those two mixed up, you're going to be having trouble pretty quickly. And that, for me, is the same with us in life. If we get mixed up as to how this really works, we get ourselves into trouble. And so for me, the self-love points back to the place where change actually takes place. Like, the only place that change takes place is within, with self. Like, I can't change Deb, you know, with all the will in the world. If she's doing something that I think that's not helpful, or it, you know, irritates me, or whatever you might say, I could spend the rest of my life trying to make Deb something different. And the only time she'll do something different is if something changes for her and it makes sense to her to do something different. And so it's a thankless task to kind of go out and try and change somebody else. And so that's why for us, this conversation is always about coming back to self. And then from there, change happens. And what we notice when that happens is that people around us either change, because, you know, that kind of happens almost by osmosis, doesn't it?
It is interesting to watch, isn't it? And it is one of those, you can't tell whether the world has changed or you have changed. And sometimes I can look, have I completely changed my outlook on that? Or is the world a different place?
And ultimately, I guess when we're kind of feeling happier and life feels better, it almost doesn't matter where that came from.
No.
But without doubt, if we start with ourselves, change and transformation is just magically, I don't know, it's like this magic that just kind of happens through us. And for me, the kind of, so that's sort of the self part of self-love, if you like. And the love part kind of goes back to what Deb was touching on before about, you know, all we are is love. Like, the only ingredient here is love. That energy that causes whatever is happening, that I'm having a human experience and I appear to be separate from Deb, and I grow flowers and I turn up and create a YouTube show, or I spend time with my partner, or I hang out with my niece, or, you know, all of the things that happen because we are love. That's all that's going on here. Love is just manifesting in many, many, many different ways. And we are that love. And so the self-love part for me is just exploring that. What does that mean for me? How am I love? How can I love other people? What does it mean if all I am is love? What's going on when I'm feeling fearful or angry? How is that love as well? And just playing around with that. That for me is where the change has happened in my life. That I've got to know some of that.
And I can really see that it's very easy with the world that we live in to think that there must be something other than love here because of all the things that go on. You know, it doesn't take us, if we go back to our living and learning, you know, with my mum having that fall and having that accident, and it can be like, how can that be love? How can that be? And that to me is this investigation. And when we look for it, one of the things that we've done in our self-love challenge this week is to get everyone to share something beautiful. If we look for beauty in the world, and there's some people in our group who maybe aren't in the best and easiest of circumstances, and yet they all manage to share something beautiful. And it is, if we look for it, there is beauty in everything. And it's just about getting curious and seeing this and seeing how, if there is only love, that means there is no separation between anything. You know, we are oneness. And that to me is that's the place we come to when we investigate self-love. When we look at a self-love challenge, that was definitely the starting point for me to find out who I am and who everybody else is on this planet, and how, you know, how is it that we're having this experience. And it all started with a little bit of challenging what goes on in my own mind and challenging what I am seeing out there, because it can be very, very easy to, in the same way when we were talking earlier about, just take the thinking we have as truth and then defending it and not even looking, you know. And for me, it is very much about getting curious.
Yeah, definitely. And like, one of the things that kind of comes to me when I'm kind of looking in this direction is, ultimately, what is it that I would like to have? And like you were saying earlier about the best experience of being a human, I don't quite know how this human experience works in, you know, I can't quite explain it in a scientific way or a clever way, but I appear to be having a human experience, and it feels as though I'm kind of stuck with that, you know, until my life comes to its end in the human form, in whatever way that might happen. I'm kind of going to have a human experience. I'm going to get up each day, or I'm going to stay in bed each day, you know, but something is going to be happening through me. That doesn't seem like something I can do much about. So then it kind of comes to me, well, if this is what's happening, wouldn't it be fun to have the best version of that I can have?
Yeah.
You know, and then it's kind of, I like being very, very simple. You know, I'm a very simple person, and it makes my life, it feels a lot easier when I simplify. So it kind of then looks to me like I can either be having an amazing human experience, or I can be in some way suffering.
Yeah, because the human experience, that's, you're going to have that.
I'm going to be having the experience, so I can either be having a great one, or one where I'm in some way suffering. And it kind of looks, you know, whatever labels you want to put on those, you know, I can be having an amazing time, a fantastic time, a wonderful, or a crappy time, a shitty time, a hard time. You know, ultimately, I'm either having a good experience or I'm suffering. And so then it looks to me like, is it available to me to be having a good experience more and more and more often? Like, is that, you know, can I tip the balance of that? Or am I going to have 50-50? Or, you know, how does that work? And so I just get really playful with, how is it possible? Is it possible? And if so, how? To just be having a more fun and lighter experience as often as I can. And, you know, in those moments where I do suffer, because I do, you know, I get caught into these stories. I get, you know, my nan falls over and I just want to rush up to be with her and fix her and make her feel okay again. You know, I have those moments where that looks really solid and I suffer. And then it kind of comes to me, is there a way for this human experience to be more fun here? Is there a way for it to be less painful here? And that's where it comes back to me, the self-love, the kind of self-exploration, the know myself, the see what's true about me, know that me is where change begins. And so I don't know, I like to play around with stuff like, you know, here's the balance, I've got this much greatness and this much suffering, what if it could, you know, tip it, you know, how is that possible?
And it is an exploration, you know. Absolutely. We're in this together, we haven't got the answer to that, you know. Is it possible to live a human life with no suffering? That's what we're playing around with and looking at and getting curious about. And we're not, I don't know is the honest answer to that, because at this moment in time, it feels like now and again I suffer. But my relationship is one of those, it's a difficult one to put your finger on, isn't it? Because definitely since I came across, you know, this understanding, and I've been in this conversation and part of this investigation, I've seen some of the places where I suffer very, very differently. So the same thing can happen, and I don't experience it as suffering in the same way as I used to. So, and again, if we go back to the only way we've got to share this is words, which can very often get in the way. But it's a very, very interesting exploration to be a part of and to just play with. And it's not, for me, this isn't about saying, oh, we're right, listen to us, we know this, we've got all the answers. This is very much about saying, go within you and see what you can see. Because I know Beck and I have we've both done that to an extent. We've gone inside and we've looked and we've seen stuff. We've seen amazing stuff, which has definitely changed our human experience for the better. And however, whatever words you want to put on that, I don't know, but it feels like we have a much, much better human experience from here. And the people that we work with, the people that explore this with us, the people that we get into this conversation with again and again and again, even if their experiences, you know, what they see is different to what we see, because I think it often is, they still have, you know, when we get into questions, when we talk about it, they have the same experience too. Their human experience shifts and changes, becomes lighter, less serious, more fun, there's more ease within it. All the things that when you stop as a human being and think, you know, why do you go to work? To earn money. Why do you want money? To make your life easier, to have a better feeling. It's all human beings actually want. And this conversation is a great way to play around with that and see how we can achieve that.
Yeah, and I can really see, like, one of the reasons I feel like I can talk about this and point in this direction is because of the difference that's happened for me.
Yeah.
Like, I can really only talk from personal experience in that sense, is that, you know, the suffering and space I used to live in all day, every day, pretty much for, you know, quite a few years, that's not where I live anymore. You know, that suffering, when I said earlier, you know, shifting the balance, and I do suffer sometimes, but if you were kind of to plot that out, it used to be that my life was 90% suffering and 10% light-hearted fun, and now it's very much the other way.
Yeah.
You know, so I kind of, for me, I know that exploring in this way makes a difference. It changes something, it shifts something, and I know that's the same for Deb.
Yeah,
know
totally.
that, you know, Deb's, anyone watching it doesn't know, Deb's my auntie. So I watched kind of the suffering that she went through in her relationship, in her life, for quite a number of years. And I watch now, and the suffering that she goes through is minimal. You know, it's very certainly comparative, and that's the same for me. And so it's just one of the things that I have just continually come back to, is exploring the absolute magnificence of what is going on here. You know, just for a minute, stop and look at how magnificent it is that you even exist in the way that you do. You know, over the lockdown period, Deb and I have done a lot of gardening, and it has just I think every moment that we've stepped into the garden and done something, you know, put our hands in the soil, put a seed in, you know, watered something, we are just blown away with the magnificence of the fact that a seed this big, and some even smaller, but they can have grown into something
with real minimal input from us, really. We kind of say we've grown these flowers, but when we look at it, barely what has gone on and what is going on, the intricate things that are going on with the flowers and the leaves and the thing, it's mind-blowing. And I don't think either one of us, I'm sure I can speak for Beck here, no, we're not trying to belittle any pain or suffering anyone is going through. You know, we've had our share of stuff happening in life, and you know, whatever it is that's going on for you or anyone you know, this isn't about saying, you know, putting that down and saying it's not real or anything like that. It's just, for me, what I saw was I was creating my own suffering. Circumstances would happen and things would go on, and I would definitely think, this is nothing to do with me, this is something outside of me, this is what is going on. And I've just seen again and again and again, even when my mum fell over and she bashed her head and she bruised herself and I couldn't go and see her, or we weren't near, I could see again that suffering was optional. You know, that had happened and there was things to do, and it doesn't mean I don't love my mom, and it didn't mean I don't want to be close to her, but I could see that suffering was separate to the circumstances. And just seeing that, it frees our mind up in the most amazing of ways. And we're not even saying, so you know, you're stupid if you suffer or anything like that. It's your own personal investigation. If you get to a place of, I've had enough of suffering, there is something more here, part of that magnificence, part of that amazing energy that grows those seeds, that, you know, gives us the bodies that we have, allows us to do what we do, to have a human experience. There is magnificence here that belongs to us. That is our birthright, that we can tap into no matter what is going on. And you know, that's what we're sharing, that's what we're talking about.
And I know, like, we often talk about all we are is love, and I think sometimes that word love doesn't necessarily land or resonate for someone. And so I think that kind of magnificence we're just talking about, maybe that's another word for it. You know, we are all this same magnificence.
It's not love in the sense of how you feel about your partner. No, it is the energy, essence, the magnificence, the essence.
Something essence that we are.
What is it that when we put those tiny little things in a pot of mud, what is it, what kind of intelligence, magnificence turns that into something we can eat, something we can look on as beautiful, something that there's just something amazing about this world we live in.
And I think, just to maybe kind of summarize, for me, the self-love is looking in the direction of that magnificence. not in the direction of the suffering.
Absolutely.
I think it's about 180 degrees difference.
What reveals itself when you look in that direction?
So hopefully that's gone some way to answering the question. And as always, if it's brought anything up for you, or if you want to know more or ask anything else, there's lots and lots of ways to connect with us. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn, and we have a website. You can connect with us in lots of places. So don't be shy.
No, absolutely.
So our topic this week, I feel like Deb chose this one, so I'm going to pin all the blame on her. So the topic this week is thriving in this crazy world, which I think actually, when I talked at the beginning about our book club
I was
coming
just
up.
thinking that.
But I don't know if is it there?
Is it?
It's right on the shelf. Yes, that one.
Yes, it's this
We'll
one.
hold it up. So
It
this
has got a knot. This is our
that's our
copy.
copy. Yeah, that's why it's got the. So yeah, when Deb wrote this book, she kind of did the tagline, "Thriving is the aim of the game." And I think when our topic came up this week, thriving in this crazy world, it fit very nicely with the fact that we are building towards our book club in July. And I know very much, I hear people say so often in, like, when you ask, how are you? What's happening? How's life? People kind of saying, oh, I'm surviving. Oh, I'm getting by. Oh, I'm doing okay. And it's, for me, the thriving part of it is almost the next step up. We can survive because we're human beings and we're kind of designed to survive this world, how this works. But we can do more than just survive. We're actually built to thrive.
We are.
And I think that's, maybe you want to talk a bit more about why that was your tagline and why kind of Dare to Be You. But
I think because I suffered for so long, and I thought that being a part of this world, and I thought life was a struggle. I thought that's how it was. I thought that's how this life worked, that we were here and we were going to struggle and suffer. And then when I came across this understanding and started looking in this direction, I realized I was wrong. I realized that we are built on, in every sense of the word, both our spiritual nature and our human nature, and that beautiful place of balance between the two that we speak of sometimes, means that in every sense of the word, we are built, we are designed, we are the essence of thriving in whatever sense, whether that is whether we are up to our neck in our human experience, whether we are zen and deeply ingrained in our spiritual essence, or whether we find this beautiful place of balance between the two. Everything about us is designed to thrive. And the world we live in, we can look at this world and shake our heads and think, it's a crazy world and there's so much going on. It's not possible to thrive here. But we are designed to live here. This is the world that we are designed to live in. And we are so adaptable. We have so much built-in intelligence and resilience and changeability and adaptability. And I don't know, all of those things that I don't even know if they're words, but it feels to me we have an abundance of that. And I have seen that so much with what's gone on in the last few months. But it's the one thing that we also have, I think it's a Jack Pransky quote that says, all we are is peace, love and wisdom, and the ability to think that we're not, to believe that we're not. And that to me is the same. We are built to thrive, and built into that is the ability to believe that we might not, and then have that experience. And I can see I had that experience for a long time, but it wasn't a true experience. If I'd actually questioned it, if I'd have actually stopped to look and to dare to be who I truly am, to dare to look in that direction, I would have seen what else was available. And to me, that's all we've done. We've just looked, we've just got curious, and we've played around. And it feels like, it is absolutely a game to us to thrive. Life looks a lot less serious with all the ups and downs and the crazy world that we live in. It just looks like a very, very, very different place these days.
Yeah, and I know, like, one of the I don't know when it was I heard this, maybe a couple of years ago, I heard Michael Neal use the phrase, we are the creative essence of the entire universe. And something, I haven't actually like talked about that for a while, but you know, when you first hear something and it's quite fresh and it really makes sense to you, and then it kind of loses its shine a little bit, but it really feels like it fits in this topic. Like it was something when I first heard it that really landed for me. Like, I know we can look out, and I think we've done this a lot through the kind of corona kind of crisis and the lockdown and everything, that there's a lot of people in the mix of that have done some amazing things, that have kind of come out of the woodwork just across the board in all sorts of different
the
ways.
Artwork on the wall.
I was looking at that, thinking actually Lucy's artwork that's sitting beautifully behind us is just one example. And I think what we are very clever at doing, if we're kind of this, if we're in that moment where this occurs to us, I haven't created artwork that beautiful ever in my life, let alone through lockdown. And so we can very quickly go into, well, that's fine for Lucy. Yeah, give me a little glance. That's fine for Lucy because she has that in her. But I haven't created anything amazing. I'm not the creative essence of the universe. And what for me this conversation does is it takes that comparison off the table and just simply says, yes, you are. And in whatever way that creativity comes through you, you know, we can put all sorts of things and say, oh, well, the people that are, you know, the frontline workers, the NHS people, they're more creative than me. They've got more to give than me. But all I'm doing is painting some artwork. How does that help in the world? Or, you know, I'm just planting sunflower seeds and I don't even do anything. You know, we can make ourselves this, I'm not as good as you. I'm not the creative essence like you are. But what comes to me again and again, that thriving is about finding our feet in this world. It's about knowing who I am. And that, you know, the title of the book that we're doing in Book Club Dare to Be You is exactly that. It's like, no, maybe you're not going to create artwork like that. That's not your job. That was Lucy's job. Maybe you're not an NHS frontline worker, but that's not your job either then. Thriving in this world is about knowing and trusting that we can be who we are, whatever that is, you know.
And on all levels, seeing that it is that word, that comparison, isn't it? And I've noticed that I can compare myself and make myself not as good as other people. And I can also do it the other way. I can make, oh, well, I'm better than you. And what I have seen in this is comparison isn't helpful. Because what is truly, truly helpful is when we see our sameness, when we make that gap between us smaller. And when we look out in the crazy world that we're trying to thrive in, we suffer when we separate out too far, when we kind of have a them and us mentality in anything, when we think that there is a possibility that there is a them and us, that there is someone who can do something better than we can do, or there is someone who can do something worse than we can do. And when we bring it back, and like Beck says, just be us. And while you were talking, a little saying came to me, and I can't remember exactly. I'm probably going to completely mess it up now. And it says something like, you know, it's something about a mosquito being in a bedroom when if you think one is if you something little can't make a difference, try sleeping in a bedroom with a mosquito. Yeah,
it's like, yeah, even something that small
can it makes it is in the world. And for me, daring to be who you are, your place in this world, your however mosquito-ness it is or even if you feel you're something huge in the world, it's to me it's about not comparing those things, to seeing the sameness in being something as big and as an elephant or something as small as a mosquito, and seeing that nothing is better than, it's not better that Lucy, the art is beautiful, the flowers we've grown are beautiful, whatever you have done through lockdown is beautiful, and it's seeing we don't need to compare. We don't need to be better and worse. Coming back to that place of I am you and you are me. That is what makes a difference. That is how we are designed to absolutely thrive in this crazy world. And the more we see that, the more places we see that. And I think that is the only thing that has changed from me. And the places where I suffer is where I think, oh yeah, I would never do that. You're totally different to me. I would never do that. That is a subtle suffering in and of itself. And the more that I build on that, the more suffering there is for me. And the more that I look at you and see you are me and I am you, the less there is a gap there. And the more I just begin to thrive. And my best human experience happens from there. It is like magic.
Yeah. And when you were saying about the comparison, I was thinking like we often kind of say we are nature. Like,
yep.
We are that.
We forget that, don't we?
Yeah. And then I kind of look out in nature and go, well, kind of watch what nature does then. You know, I've never seen, as far as I can tell, a dandelion kind of going, oh, but I'm not a rose. Oh, I'm not, I don't stand like a rose or have the colouring of a rose or the smell.
They don't
just gets
stop
on
blooming, do they?
They
don't stop doing what they're doing.
Best dandelion it can be. And you know, we label a dandelion weeds, but if you ever actually looked at them, they're incredibly beautiful. The colouring of them, the way their kind of little fronds stand up, they're really beautiful.
And those little the seeds at the end, the way they do the seeds, the dandelion clocks, they're amazing.
Yeah, they're absolutely incredible.
They're beautiful.
And like, we do that to ourselves. We kind of make ourselves the dandelion and compare ourselves to someone else as the rose.
Or we make ourselves the rose.
Yeah. And it's like both of them are beautiful in their essence, being the best dandelion or the best rose that they can be.
And I guess the investigation is, what are you? Are you a dandelion or a rose? And nothing is better or whatever. Yeah. And be that. I remember when I was in the women's refuge, I remember somebody reading out a poem, and I can't remember what the poem was, but it was about a banana and a peach or something like that. And it said, oh, I'm a peach, I'm an absolutely delicious, ripe, gorgeous peach, but somebody prefers a banana. Oh, well, I better be a banana then. Well, I'll always be a second-rate banana because actually I'm a peach, but I need to try really hard to be a banana because this person likes a banana. And then, so you have your best effort of being a banana, then it says, oh, someone comes along who likes a peach. Oh, now what do I do? And it's very much like that. Your place in the world is to be who you are, and whatever that is and however that is expressed out in the world, it's always going to be exactly perfect, even though some people may not think so.
Yeah. And it is about seeing that thriving comes when we can be honest with ourselves about who and what we are and show up as that. And actually, like, if I was in that peach and banana example, if I was after a banana and I picked up a peach that was pretending to be a banana, I'm going to be a little disappointed. But as soon as I'm in the mood for a peach, that's going to be the juiciest, best peach I could have. And it's seeing that when we turn up and be who we are meant to be, when we step out as who we are, we're doing the world a much bigger service. We're giving a much better gift to the world. By being who we are.
Ultimate gift. But just being you and truly investigating who you truly are and living that is the biggest gift you can give to the world, whatever it turns out you are.
And that is the crux of thriving.
And the crux of self-love.
Yeah. Oh yeah, how that came together. So yeah, I think for me it is just coming back again and again to seeing that we don't have to live small. We're kind of designed to be a part of this experience and this existence and to thrive at that. And the pain comes when we fight our creative essence, when we kind of try and be something we're not. That suffering and that pain is telling us we're going against what is true for us and against who and what we are. And so thriving for me is just about stepping up as often as I can as being who I am.
I think we do see it, don't we? When we hurt, when we believe our thoughts, we hurt. When we believe thoughts that say we're not good enough or we should be different or in any way, that hurts. And that is the alarm clock that says to us, oh, you're trying to be somebody you're not. Be who you actually are. Fall in love, accept, go with who you truly are, because who you are in this world is who you should be, is important, is significant, does make a difference. Be that. And we kind of feel way less pain when we go with that. And who we are is not separate from anything. We are nature. We are a part of this beautiful, we are the creative essence of this universe, in the same way that seeds are, and soil is, and plants are, and our bodies are. There is, all of it is the absolute beauty of who we are. And when we begin to see that and fall in love with that, that is true self-love. And how can you not love nature and how this world actually works when we begin to see that? What is not to love?
So that concludes our show for today. Thank you very, very much for being with us.
You.
We hope that, that's been helpful with the topic and the question. And as always, in whatever way you want to, if you want to connect with us, please do.
Absolutely. If that's brought anything up for you and you've got questions or anything anything you want us to answer on another show, or you want to contact us, or if you want to work with us in any way, we're always happy to hear from you, because we do work with clients in many, many ways.
Yeah, and I think underneath this video is all the different ways you can connect with us and find us.
Absolutely. Someone's done the technical bit right.
Yeah. So on our show next week, our question next week is it a cop-out to be okay when there is suffering in the world? It's a great question.
Yeah, it is. With everything there's so much going on in the world at the moment, isn't it?
Things happening. So yeah, great. And our topic next week is building trust. So looking forward to that. So thank you very, very much for being with us today.
Thanks for being with us.
We are live in our Facebook group at 9 o'clock on Thursday morning. If you want to join in with us there, we'll be around for that.
Okay. Hopefully we will see you somewhere soon. Take care. Bye.